Mercy? Great, thanks. You forgot to say one gorgeous French wife. So. All right, yeah, my name is Bryce Wagner. I'm the Executive Director of Global Partnerships. What does that mean? It means that I help connect some of these big companies and partners and cross-border relationships around the world, the ones like MSC, the ones like Johnson & Johnson, the top corporates. Get these guys connected to be able to help us do what we need to do. I'm also really good at the tricycle. Where do I point this? Hold on. Is it on? There we go. Got it. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you today about goodbyes and unexpected reunions, because we're going to be saying goodbye to different people. It's kind of the theme of today. Now, goodbyes, where do I need to point this? Back here? Okay, it's just slow. Goodbyes, why are goodbyes challenging? Goodbyes are challenging because we get attached. Those are the things that make it challenging. If we didn't get attached, it probably wouldn't be so hard to say goodbye. Sorry, guys. Can I just say go, and you guys do it, because it's going really slow. Go. It's challenging for us to say goodbye to a lot of different things, not just people. Sometimes it's hard to say goodbye to things. So I'm going to talk about that in the context of mercy ships. In the history of mercy ships, we've had 5 ships. Go ahead, go. And those 5 ships, it's been a challenge because 3 of them we've had to actually say goodbye to. And I can guarantee you it wasn't easy. When you live your whole life on a ship and you see the tool used by God, and then all of a sudden somebody decides we got to get rid of it, it's a challenge. And we have those things in our life. We have things we get attached to that we have to say goodbye to, some for good reasons, some for not. Go ahead, next slide. But the good thing is that usually when we say goodbye, God brings something else. He brings something bigger. He's brought 2 big ships for us. Now, I want to talk about people. Go ahead, next slide. We get attached to people, and that's the big thing on the ship. It is very easy for us to get attached when we're on board mercy ships. We're all together. We're at the same cause. It's easy to get very close very quickly. And you guys are in a situation where you have to live goodbyes all the time. And if you can learn how to manage that, it can help you in the process. And so I've kind of unwrapped, go ahead. On board the ship, you can see there's so many people that come. And I found sometimes that people tend to flock together to just those that are there long term because it's hard to be able to say goodbye. Don't do it. Live the richness. Get close to people, even if they're short term. Understand that goodbyes are part of life. Next slide. And when you say goodbye to people, it's interesting because I'm going to unwrap this and tell you 6 stories of my stories within Mercy Ships about goodbyes, and I've wrapped them into 3 different categories. Because when you say goodbye, sometimes you're saying goodbye and you don't expect to ever see this person again. Sometimes you say goodbye and you're thinking, oh, I really hope you long to see that person again. And I'm going to be frankly honest with you. You guys know that I'm a very transparent executive. I'll tell you, there's been people that I've said goodbye to that borderline hated. I don't want to see them ever again. Serious. Sometimes you say goodbye, and you know what? I wouldn't say it's good to hate somebody, but it's okay to say goodbye. And I'll explain in my story where it was actually a really good thing. Okay, next slide. I'm going to talk first about people that I never expect to see again, or at least not soon. Next slide. All of us live in a situation where there's people we'll say goodbye to. This is Twyla. She was a really good friend of mine. Actually, it was my mom. She passed away when I was 16, had cancer. She knew where she was going. I knew where she was going. Didn't make it easier, but still, it was a goodbye with hope. Because I knew that I would see the person again. I'm sure all of you have had people you had to say goodbye to that it's going to be a long time before you see them. Next slide. This was really cool. This was a surprise encounter. I had no idea when I got to the ship I would hook up with 2 of my heroes, and I think they're in the room, and they're probably I didn't tell them I'm going to talk about them, but anyway. I sat down for lunch next to Guy Chavalet and Dr. Watermay, and these guys are truly incredible. I don't know them very well, but I consider them friends, and I also consider them heroes because the 2 of these guys embody what we do in Mercy Ships. Mercy Ships has 2 things we do. Next slide. one of the things we do is we are out there to meet the needs of those who just would not have possible access otherwise. We're out there to give sight to blind people that maybe if we weren't here might be blind their whole life. We're also out there, so when we sail away, we want to leave something behind so these nations can continue to do things and help themselves. That's what these two guys are. It's incredible how much they've done. Go to the next slide. Guy, I knew him when he first came here. The first time he came here was in 2008, a long time ago. And I didn't know how many times he had come back because I kind of lost track. So I asked him, and he's been here 10 times. And only for a few weeks at a time. And I asked him, well, you must keep track. Do you know how many people in Africa you've saved their life? Now, I think we save everybody's life that we are treating. I walk down there into that room, you see the smiles, you see the dancing. We are saving their life from a life of isolation. Some of them we practically saved their lives from dying, but all of them. And so I said, Guy, do you have any idea? He didn't know it, so I was trying to figure this out. I said, well, just come on, give me an idea. What's an average amount of people that you will operate on when you come on one? I said, I don't know, probably around 100. Well, I can do the math. 10 trips, that's a lot of people in Africa that he and our teams, not just him, it takes all of us, but he can be proud of that. Go next slide. Dr. Watermay, incredible. Trained under Dr. Strauss. And the beautiful thing about Dr. Watermay, I learned something new with him. I know that he's here. He's been here for a while. He's going to stay through Christmas to continue to, again, transform hundreds of lives. But the beauty about Dr. Watermay is he's training others, and he told me he's trained 6 doctors who are now training other people. That is exponential hope and healing. That's what we are here for. We are here not just to help fill the gap, but to find a way to make sure that when we're sailing away, we're leaving something behind that Africa can improve. I dream of the day that we are bankrupt because this continent doesn't need us anymore. How awesome would that be? I'm happy to go and do something else if that happens. Next slide. So now I'm going to talk one story about people I'd really like to see again. Next slide. You guys may have seen this slide before. This always rocks my world. Almost 17 million people die every year in Africa because they do not have access to surgery. 17 million people. That is a whole lot more than everyone who died that year with AIDS, HIV, malaria, COVID, and Ebola. Add those all up, it's not even close. Next slide. So what do we do with that? How do you deal with the fact that you've got such a big thing? How do you feel good about what you're doing? And the reality is you have to get back to, Dr. Gary's kind of helped me continue to realize this, because every one of those people, of those 16 million, go ahead, next slide, is somebody's mother, somebody's brother, somebody's sister, next slide, somebody's daughter, somebody just like Christine. I have the privilege of getting back every once in a while to visit the ship, and I always like to do different things. Last time I got to wash dishes, probably the last time they're going to have me do that. But when I was in Republic of Congo, I happened to get there right on the day when we were doing our screening. Now, back then, what we would do is we'd go there 2 years ahead, go in country, find as many people as possible we thought had things we could help, and then ask them to be back at the ship at a certain day. Well, people would come, and of course, the word passed, and a lot of other people would come and had things that we couldn't help, and you would have thousands of people lining up, and they would come line up the day before. It was like the tickets for the best rock concert. I mean, I did that once, stay on the street all night to get a good U2 ticket. These guys were staying out all night long to get a ticket for a chance at a new life. Next slide. And when I went there, I heard that they had the medical teams would go out and spend the whole night walking the lines and giving water to people. And since I spoke French, I thought, hey, you need a translator? And I said, I really just, selfishly, I just wanted to go there. I wanted to hear their stories. I wanted to see who are these people, get to know them, and give them some water. The problem is, they didn't give me all the facts. They weren't just going there to give water. I got to the line, and the nurse says, well, actually, you know, a big part of what we have to do here is we have to walk around and look for people that we know have things that we can't treat, because I don't want them to stand here all night long just to be disappointed. They had to walk the lines all night long to send people home. What a horrible job. Next slide. And so the interesting thing is the people in the Republic of Congo listened to the government, and so they didn't not that many showed up until early in the twilight hours, and they started flocking in. So by the time daylight broke, there was over 5,000 people there, and the nurse that I was with said, you know what? We're not going to get through this line. They said, guess what? You are now Dr. Bryce. She took a stethoscope on, put it on around me, and said, there's one thing we are not doing this time. We don't always do every program. We were not doing orthopedics, so we were not doing the clubfoot. She goes, you don't have to be a very smart doctor to look at somebody and know they got clubfoot. So that's your job. Go around there, find everybody with clubfoot, and send them home. So now I'm on my own. Hey, this was probably the second hardest moment in my life in Mercy Ships. Next slide. So I started walking around and I saw Christine. And I'm walking to her, God, I gotta do this. Give me some words. So I walked up there and I said, hi, what's your name? She's Christine. She was with her grandma, wearing her Sunday best, hoping that this was going to be her time for a new life. And I said, Christine, I've got some good news for you and some bad news. I said, the good news is what you have won't kill you. There's some people in this line that we really have to take care of that are not going to make it. I said, I got more good news. What you have can be treated. Don't lose hope ever. I said, the bad news is I don't have a doctor that can do that this year. I don't want you to sit here and wait all night because I don't have somebody that can fix this. Okay, 9 years old, she was the same age as my daughter. This little African girl reaches out. She puts her hand on my arm and says, it's okay, doctor. I've been waiting 9 years. I can wait some more. This is why Mercy Ships exists. We like to tell the stories of the patients we've healed. Mercy Ships exists for Christine. That's why we need more ships. We need more volunteers. We need more corporate partners. Africa needs us to make a difference. I hope that we get back to the Republic of Congo, and I would love if we get back there, if I meet Christine and she's got help somewhere else, it doesn't have to come from us. We don't have to do everything. And if she hasn't got help yet, how awesome would that be if we were able to help her because she's been waiting another 10 years? Awesome. Next slide. Okay, now, here's the hardest part of my life. That was, now it gets worse here, guys. So that one was the second hardest one. This was the hardest point in my life because I like to think I'm a nice guy, but the reality is I have one person that I met that I just never want to see again because of my experience with that person. Next slide. I said goodbye to this guy in Los Angeles, California in 1987. The guy was incredibly arrogant, selfish, looked like a really nice guy, nice smile, but man, inside was not a good guy. Next slide. It was me. So in 1987, next slide, I turned around. Next slide. And how I did that is because I met Jesus. Next slide. I met Jesus in a homeless man on Venice Beach. And he helped me realize that I did not want to live my whole life just for myself. Everything was about me, everything. And at that point, I just made the commitment, God, I'll do whatever you want. I'll go wherever you want. I don't want to just live for me anymore. And I said goodbye to that man. And I was actually at that point rescued from myself. Next slide. And the reality is, I wanted to say goodbye. A lot of times we say goodbye to somebody we never want to see again, but sometimes they show up. I am continually being renewed by the transformation of my mind. So sometimes this guy shows up, and I got to say goodbye again. And that's what it's like to walk with God. Next slide. So I've been with Mercy Ships ever since, continuing to try to avoid that guy and trying to do everything I can to help make a difference. And the one thing I like most about what I'm doing is that not just about connecting these corporate partners, with their possibility to give us donations or crew or money or material. I love the fact that these guys, when they come here, they are seeing Jesus in some of the poor, just like I saw it in that homeless guy. Next slide. I want to thank every one of you for how generous and loving you were to my guys that came. 2 of them wrote back to me on text message and said, you know what? This has been a life transformational experience. They said, I will never be the same. And I know that it's effort and a challenge for all of you because you have to take time. And the time you take to talk with these guys is less time you're taking with the patients. So I just want to say thank you very much. I'm going to be around afterwards. If anybody has any questions about what's going on in the organization, anything about what I do, please come and talk to me. I'd love to be able to chat. I'm around all day tomorrow as well. Next time I come back, I'll make sure I stay at least another week so I get a chance to chat and talk with you guys. So thank you for welcoming me.